where you are in your economic development?
Well, we see that, as you were mentioning, that the lessons that learned from the crisis, we see that the weaknesses that we have as the hurdles and as the task that we will have to do is to eliminate the bottlenecks that we have in infrastructure, education, healthcare system, and in doing that, the government, instead of putting a lot of investment on the infrastructure, will have to prioritize the government spending on the education and healthcare system. At the same time, with what we call it socialized, I mean, they call in the private investment in also the education and healthcare system. We have to manage the public-private model of investment into the infrastructure in order to reduce the government spending on that and to maintain more stable sort of macro economy. And that's the issues that we have learned from the past, that we by making a lot of investment into the infrastructure, we actually facing the issues of the inflation. So the government in the future would have to diversify that investment into the private sectors and prioritizing in the poor area and boosting the domestic demand.
And if I could just ask Mr. Hoang to comment on Vietnam's policy on that, and how does that fit into the overall economic picture?
Well, Vietnam is considering the green economy as the must. It's inevitable, because when we select the export-led model, the products that are exported to other countries will have to meet all the environmental standards and criteria. Secondly, Vietnam is actually the countries that in a longer term is to be the energy imported countries. So it doesn't have to reduce it, consumptions of the energy, and also improve the efficiencies. And I agree with Von Kiet that our efficiency is very, very low, and it's about we have to use at the moment more than 20% of our energy for producing one unit of GDP. So the green economy as the must that we will have to embark on that. The government is set up the strategy, and we have to follow all the international standards for environment. We have to build all the feasibility study for every project to do with the environment evaluations. The EIA will have to be approved before any project to be going any further. And the new and renewable energy will have to achieve the figure of 5 to 8% by the year 2015. So that is the criteria that the government is putting forward, and forcing the business and the country to follow.
Okay.
So we are also willing to invest outboundly.
And I'd like to comment on that.
Well, I think that's the good questions, and I think that every country will have their models, and every models or sort of strategy will have side effect of that. But the point is that if the government acting together and getting out of the trend of the protectionisms, and also to agree on the measures to control the flow of capital, and not to let the case of the banking crisis that happen, we can protect the result or whatever the achievement that we have. Otherwise, every country is changing their model, making a lot of investment, and they end up with another story of crisis. Thanks.
In the near future?
Well, actually, in our case, the stimulus package is not as big as that in China. We have only about $6 billion. But we see that the stimulus money was coming first to the small and medium enterprises which employ 90% of our labor force. So that stimulus package helped them to maintain the employment during the crisis, and because of that, they continue to get back to the market whenever the market was growing. And secondly, we could, help them to kind of maintain the social, security to the employment.
So this is a key economic policy is developing this sector. As you say, 90% it has to be.
Yeah, 90% of the employment is employed by the SME. So the stimulus market is supplied to them, not to the big, sort of junk.
Mayor Harrison, what's the experience in Japan? And again, is it something that needs to be looked at as far as rebalancing an economic model?
Years for the full recovery.
With all the lessons learned from the crisis, the crisis of '97, make the Asian countries more experienced on dealing with it, and with this crisis, and with the program that the G20 have put forward, and with the willingness that the countries all over the world are willing to act, collectively. So I believe that, the market will not coming down again like the W, sort of share.
Mr. Chow.